In a world completely overwhelmed by ongoing debates as to which adaptation of cinema is better, the West has Hollywood, the East has Bollywood, but in the middle we have the Globerwood Critic. Greetings my nasty chaps and chapasses, I'm the Globerwood Critic. Sci-Fi, the one genre that most film enthusiasts didn't think Bollywood would even attempt at doing between the mid-70s and the 90s.
Boy, my head being right all the time.
Until the year 2003 when director Rakesh Roshan gave us the movie Gaya. But which film do you suppose they based it on? Why, it's Steven Spielberg's E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. Okay, both directors claim that both these two films are not duplicates of one another, as one story is based on a 1960s novel, and the other is based on an imaginary friend.
Maybe you just probably imagined it.
I couldn't have imagined it.
But there are some elements from both films that not only make it similar, but just as good as the other.
Thank you, Jadu.
I'm getting all excited, I can't wait. This is E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial versus Gaya. Now, seeing as though I've not done this in a while, I'm going to go backwards this time round and start off with the story. Spielberg's E.T. is considered by many audiences to be the classic family sci-fi story. A misunderstood boy named Elliot, played by Henry Thomas, befriends a stranded alien whom he names E.T., hides him in his home along with his two siblings and divorced mother, and attempts to help him make contact with his own kind with various odd electricals from their household. So you could say the storyline itself is a basic rescue mission story, with a few added scenes to show basic interaction between the main characters.
Oh, God! Elliot.
The opening segment is also a bit of a mystery, as it never reveals how E.T. and his kind encounter Earth, and why they chose to collect its floral samples. Gaya, on the other hand, gives a different approach in telling the story, plus the mystery behind the alien spacecraft arrival is shown. In the opening segment, Sanjay Mehra, played by Rakesh Roshan, is revealed to be the man responsible for alerting a spacecraft response, as he used a computer program to send variations of the syllable OM into space.
ये आवाज़ें?
मैंने ओम शब्द को लेके इस ऑक्टोपैड के जरिए एक पैटर्न बनाया और इस पैटर्न को कंप्यूटर पे डिजिटली कन्वर्ट करके मैंने स्पेस में साउंड सिग्नल्स भेजे हैं और ये देखो सोनिया दूसरी दुनिया से किसी का जवाब आ रहा है.
His fellow employees and scientists dismiss his claim of making contact, but then while going home with his wife Sonia, played by Rekha, an unknown UFO arrives in their atmosphere, which unintentionally causes an accident, killing Sanjay in the process. After those scenes, we are introduced to Rohit Mehra, played brilliantly by Hrithik Roshan. Now, as a result of the accident that took place, Sonia, who was 7 months pregnant at the time, gave birth prematurely, which resulted in a brain injury to Rohit's head, rendering him mentally disabled.
जब आपका एक्सीडेंट हुआ था और जिस तरह आप अपने पेट के बल गिरी थी, तो बच्चे के दिमाग पर चोट लग गई, जो उस वक्त आपके पेट में था, और उसके दिमाग का ये हिस्सा डैमेज हो गया था. यही कारण है कि उसकी मेंटल ग्रोथ नॉर्मल नहीं है.
Now, how does this character fit in with the film's core genre? Well, as it turns out, he, along with his adult friend, Nisha, played by Preeti Zinta, are the ones who find Sanjay's old ORM computer and unintentionally send out sound waves into space, signalling the exact same spacecraft to come into their populated area. They encounter a lone alien and befriend him after realizing his own kind had deserted him by accident.
हमको क्या करना चाहिए?
हमको इसको छुपा के रखना होगा.
He is given the name Jadoo, meaning magic, due to his psychokinetic abilities. It is only until after a conversation between Rohit and Sonia that Jadoo uses his powers to enhance Rohit's mind, allowing him to exceed on forwards both socially, academically, physically, and mentally.
क्या मैं फिजिकली स्ट्रांग नहीं हूँ?
हाँ,
पर मेंटली थोड़ा कमजोर हूँ ना?
नहीं, मैं
अकल का थोड़ा कच्चा हूँ। पक जाऊँगा।
Now the main concept between these two films that is shown similarly is friendship. E.T. and Elliot's friendship, as described by Spielberg, is an analogy on how real-world adversaries can learn to overcome their differences. But their connection, on the other hand, occasionally relies on psychic telepathy, which is shown in the scenes where Elliot, while in school, is exhibiting signs of intoxication due to E.T. drinking alcohol, and of course the scene after Halloween where both characters appear to be critically ill.
You leave him alone, I can take care of him.
The friendship between Rohit and Jadoo, on the other hand, shifts more towards Rohit, as his pure-hearted innocence and compassion towards both Jadoo and his loved ones addresses a moral towards the audience, that friendship is truly universal.
माँ, जादू का है माँ?
वो जादू को ले गए।
कहाँ ले गए?
मैं बताता हूँ। हाँ मैंने ऐसा प्यार ऐसी दोस्ती कहीं नहीं देखा है।
And for me, the remake wins this round because unlike the original, the concept of friendship used here gives a greater impact from both characters. Point goes to the East. Now comes probably the only concept that differentiates the two films completely, its best visual style. Okay, admit it my Desi peeps, you've always complimented on how colourful Bollywood movies are, so it's only fair to say the remake will outdo the original. But having said that, let's have a look at the two films in detail. Okay, even I admit the remake still sticks with the conventional use of colourful imagery used while filmmaking, but there are some similarities from the original which also makes it a tad bit better. I should firstly point out that the estimate budget for E.T. was actually double the amount compared to the estimated budget Koi Mil Gaya had. But honestly, most of the best visuals in the original were kept to a minimal until when things got extremely serious or fairly light-hearted. Scenes like the arrival and departure of the spaceship. How about the scene where E.T. demonstrates his telekinesis on a plant and several balls? And of course the scene where the scientists and medics quarantine both E.T. and Elliot.
Lost any hair?
He never had any hair.
I have to admit, I did enjoy the mix between the colour tones that were shown in the original, such as dark and mysterious to light and upbeat. Now how do you suppose Koi Mil Gaya can top that? The remake, while sticking to the conventional use of colourful imagery, makes its visual style a tad bit better to the original. Okay, there are many moments in there where most of the sci-fi visuals were similarly used from the original. However, there are some scenes which have also been replicated from other movies that are not exactly sci-fi. For example, the basketball scene replicated from Flubber, and the eyesight scene replicated from Spider-Man.
माँ, मुझे सब दिखाई दे रहा है।
The only scene that seemed almost a carbon copy from the movie Independence Day was the spaceship arrival scene.
सर जी, लगता है तूफान आने वाला है। बड़ा भयंकर तूफान।
Now in that particular scene, not only do we get colourful scenery, the colour itself utilises the tone and mood of the scene to give a more dark yet amazed tone, and because it's used in this movie, it works. Now let's look at the subgenres both movies use. In E.T., we have three subgenres that give the movie a more light-hearted tone to the story and visual style: family, adventure, and drama.
Old Spice.
Sea breeze.
The other, on the other hand, also includes these three subgenres, while at the same time still sticks with the two main themes that every Bollywood movie must need to ensure audience satisfaction: romance and musical numbers. Alright, I know what you're going to say, sci-fi and musical numbers, but as I've said before from a previous review, Bollywood certainly knows when to include their romantic moments and musical numbers, and thankfully in this sci-fi flick, it works. This is because the majority of the musical numbers only appear when the main lead is either with his group of friends or with his love interest in order to project his thoughts to our audience. There is only one song where the alien is featured, but because of the vast majority of cast, it works, and even makes the moments enjoyable. So since there were more pros than cons used in terms of visual style to ensure audience satisfaction, as well as moments to live up to the original, I'm going to give this round to the remake. Point goes to the East. But what is good visuals and story without a good supporting cast? Well, let's take a look. This is Best Supporting Cast. This isn't easy to pick out because both films had a really good supporting cast to work with the main characters. Now to be honest, I saw the remake first, so for this part of the comparison, I'm going to begin with Goy Mil Gaya. The cast in Goy Mil Gaya is good, but the vast majority is basically a mixture of angels and devils, meaning friends and enemies towards the main characters. Some of who choose to protect and help the main characters, and there are others who see them as a potential threat. And Bollywood is no exception when it comes to adding friends and enemies. But to some extent, the supporting cast in Goy Mil Gaya do exceptionally well, even with its fresh new batch of child performers, and use of popular veterans like Rakesh Roshan, Prem Chopra, Johnny Lever, Mukesh Rishi, and the film's main villain, Rajat Bedi.
ये साले बच्चे उन्हें कैसे लग गए? कुछ चक्कर तो जरूर है.
Now how do you suppose E.T. can top that? Well, I wouldn't say the film's supporting cast is better or worse than the remake. Instead, the cast is more neutral, i.e. all minor characters think only for themselves.
Oh great. Nice one, Elliot.
It was an accident.
And in personal opinion, it also works on equal terms as the original. One perfect example is the older teens played by Casey Martell, Sean Fry, and C. Thomas Howell. Elliot's older brother Michael, played by Robert McNaughton, only shows his neutral side to his personality for about 30 minutes in the film. That is until he sees E.T. that his role and duty as Big Brother changes for the better.
Well, come on, help me.
We'll be waiting for you, Elliot.
Now let's look at the mother figures, seen as though both films have them for both the main leads. Sonia Mehra, played by Rekha in the remake, is shown as a typical caring but no-nonsense mother, always there to defend and protect her son but never questions his motives.
But you know something? मुझे इस बात का कोई दुख नहीं, कोई दुख नहीं, क्योंकि अगर नॉर्मल लोग तुम जैसे होते हैं, तो मुझे खुशी है कि मेरा बेटा रोहित अब नॉर्मल है, मुझे खुशी है.
I'll have to admit, her powerhouse performance she delivers doesn't exactly make her stand out as a character. It makes her stand out more as a role model, not just for other actresses in her league, but for other mothers, old and young. Mary, played by Dee Wallace in the original, is also shown as a caring mother, but there are more moments when from her given facial expressions, she looks like she is lost in her own world.
What happened in here?
Oh, you mean my room?
This is no room. This is an accident.
But there is one similarity between the two, which is they're both single parents. And from their expressions, they both crave for their other halves, as they both feel their lives could be more different, not only for themselves, but for their children. The only difference is that one has divorced the other and living a new life out of the country, and the other was killed in an accident. Now going back to the others, as much as I think the supporting cast in the remake does exceptionally well, I'm going to give this round to the original. One other reason is the character Gert, played by Drew Barrymore.
I taught him how to talk now. He can talk now.
She was by far my favourite character in the movie, as not only is she the one who helps E.T. to communicate to both her and her brothers, but she set the standard for future child actors at the time with her memorable, mischievous and sarcastic demeanour. As Spielberg states, she had the right imagination for that particular role. Point goes to the West. Now comes probably the more complex of the comparisons. It's Best Alien, E.T. versus Jadoo. Now both films do have two unique aliens, both of which have the same power, being psychokinetic, but used very differently. E.T. uses his powers very rarely, but in most scenes it mainly involves telekinesis, such as the levitation of balls, psychic connection but while both characters are intoxicated, and of course a flying bicycle that was used twice. There are other moments when he demonstrates his other abilities, such as resurrection, which he demonstrates on a flower, which rejuvenates the same time he does near the end.
E.T. phone home.
Jadoo in Goy Milgia also does the same abilities, but in different circumstances.
Jadoo, Didi. Jadoo.
Like here, instead of a flower, we have a pot that was broken by Rohit one night, only for it to be repaired with no crack marks. The only ability that he does not show in the movie is the use of connecting with his friend in a psychic manner. Instead, while Rohit is sleeping, Jadoo uses his powers to enhance the boy's mind, leading to Rohit scaling up both socially and academically, with a few physical changes too.
Hayla! Muscles? Baap re!
The main difference between them is the roles that they play and their appearances. As much as Bollywood tries with the design of Jadoo, E.T.'s appearance, I have to say, was much more dynamic, as it looked much more like an unidentified otherworld life form, and who could forget his infamous voice?
E.T. home phone.
Jadoo's appearance looked more like a kid dressed in an alien's costume for Halloween, plus his voice sounded a bit too digitally enhanced.
Jadoo nahi jayega.
And of course there are the roles that both aliens play differently. In the original, E.T. looks as though he wants to commune to his surroundings, learn more from the human world, and develop a close bond with Elliot and his siblings. Whereas Jadoo acts more as an angel on Rohit's shoulders and his friends and family. So for me, my vote goes to the original. Why? He's just too perfect and overall the most memorable. Point goes to the West. Now it all comes down to our final comparison. It's Best Leading Male, Henry Thomas versus Hrithik Roshan. Now if you've seen both films, you're probably wondering, couldn't these two characters be any more similar? Okay, they are both misunderstood characters, but there is a vast difference between these personalities. And yes, I know what you're going to say, the main difference between these two is that Thomas is only a young'un and Roshan is too buff. But there are some similarities. Elliot, played by Thomas, is shown as a lonely 10-year-old boy who often gets teased by his brother Michael and his friends.
Yeah, he came back. But he's not a goblin. He's a spaceman.
Oh, that's an extra-terrestrial. Where's he from? Uranus? Get it? Uranus?
He longs for a good friend, someone who he can personally connect with. Rohit, played by Roshan, instead is shown to be a mentally challenged adult who craves for independence and to make a name for himself in the adult world.
सब मेरा मजाक उड़ाते हैं। अगर तुम मेरी मदद नहीं करो तो कौन करेगा?
His only pillars of strength and support are his mother, his girlfriend, and his little friends dubbed the Super Six. However, both their lives are changed when they encounter both aliens in different circumstances. Elliot's encounter with E.T. is the usual cliché: get scared at first and then befriend each other, as means to help one another. And it's both before and after that Elliot experiences a psychic connection with E.T. that the two initially bond. Rohit's encounter with Jadoo is a tad bit different. Instead, he's with his girlfriend Nisha, and while walking in the forest, they encounter the alien. But rather than run away from it, he begins to ask it questions.
ऊपर से आए हो?
लगता है ये वहीं से आया है.
Although the mutual friendship is there during their first encounter, their initial bond takes place after Jadoo enhances Rohit's mind after learning about his disability, that Rohit finally gains recognition not just from his peers at school, but from his neighbours, family and friends.
मगर ये सब कैसे?
ये सब जादू का जादू है माँ. मुझे देखो, हमें वो रोहित ही रहा.
Now the main concept which both main characters look at, as I've mentioned before, is friendship. Now for me, out of these two, this is no-brainer, and I prefer Roshan's performance to Thomas. Don't get me wrong, Thomas's performance as Elliot is considered more memorable, but personally, I didn't go that much on it, as there seem to be more moments that from his expressions he looks far too skeptical, and I swear communicating in squeals and screams. See what I mean? Roshan's performance as Rohit, in my opinion, stands out more, as behind the tears, pain and struggle is a young man wanting to be accepted in society, and it's his pure-hearted innocence and willingness to do good that wins him over with various normal people, that also makes the audience fall in love with this character. And for me, this was a much better performance.
देखा आंटी, रोहित ने कहा था ना एक दिन बड़ा आदमी बनेगा. देखो कितना बड़ा आदमी बन गया.
Point goes to the east, which means our all-round winner is Goy Mil Gaya. So there you have it. Goy Mil Gaya beats E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial in this comparison, giving another point to Bollywood in this round. Now I'm not saying I don't like E.T., I just think Goy Mil Gaya is better in terms of story, visual style and better choice of actor. I'm the Globerwood Critic. Until next time, Arjigalier, Alvida, Meri Desi Local.